Welcome to the Q&A webinar for the 2018 application period for the Bezos Scholars Program. Today we have 2015 Scholar Griffin Hamstead here to tell us more about his experience with the program and also to answer any questions that you might have about the process. We're excited to tell you a little bit more about the different aspects of the program itself in addition to the application. And slide. Let's see. So just to give an overview of some of the things that we will talk about today, we'll do some friendly introductions here with Griffin and the program team. We will also talk about the application process, talk about the week at the Aspen Ideas Festival when we're at Aspen, Colorado. We'll talk about the process of local ideas festivals, what they are and how to create them. We'll also talk about the alumni experience and the opportunities that we offer to scholars beyond their first year in the program, and we will be sure to save time for general questions as well. Just as a friendly introduction of Griffin, and I'll let him say more about himself. He's a 2015 scholar. He is from Knoxville, Tennessee. He founded Serve Knox, a community change project connecting his peers at the high school in Knoxville with local organizations that needed volunteers in the area. He's now studying at the University of Georgia. He's a sophomore, has helped with the TED conference in Vancouver, BC, continues to connect with alumni and is also a published writer, avid reader, and spoken word enthusiast. Is there anything you might add to that, Griffin?
I'll just add that I'm an English major currently here at UGA, which I absolutely love. I love nature, the outdoors, and all that good stuff. So I'll just throw that in there. But otherwise, I'd say pretty fair introduction.
Thank you. And then myself, I'm the program manager here at the Bezos Scholars Program. Been working on the program for about 3 years now. And we have so much fun getting to know a new group of young people and their educators each year. I'm particularly excited about, meeting new folks each year, but also to learn what the new cohorts are curious about. A lot of our program is about your individual passions and how you use those to motivate you to create community change. So it's always exciting to get to know new young people because everyone has different ideas about what they'd like to see in the world. I live here in Seattle. The foundation, the Bezos Family Foundation, is centered here in Seattle, and I also went to university here at Seattle Pacific University, where I majored in Spanish. So to get started today, we're going to talk a little bit about the application process first, as that's where the whole journey begins. There's important information to know about the application process itself, eligibility being a starting place. We are looking for juniors at public high schools in the United States. That's the baseline for student eligibility. The school itself needs to be a public high school. We're looking at schools that have 30% free and reduced lunch status from last year's count. And we're also looking to especially prioritize student applicants from schools that haven't been represented in the previous 2 years. Also, we are looking for students that have demonstrated leadership in their community, and there are lots of different ways that individuals can demonstrate leadership, but some of the more notable ways are having community service projects, doing work through your school, doing work through a church or religious organization that you're affiliated with, as well as doing things with your family, your sports teams, and other community groups that you might be a part of. We are also looking for students that have taken or will have taken before the due date a standardized test as a college entrance exam. So we are looking for PSAT scores, ACT scores, or SAT scores. We are also looking for students that are bound for higher education. So one way that we kind of think about that is how you demonstrate your academic rigor. And that is by taking classes that are more challenging, such as advanced placement or international baccalaureate classes. And if those are not offered at your school, or if you're also enrolled in college level courses at your community college, we happily accept that as well. Another important thing in eligibility is availability. We need that students that apply, as well as their educators that accompany them, are available for all of the required program dates. So that will be our week in Aspen this year. It will be June 23rd through June 29, 2018. Those are the dates that we will be in Aspen. So we need that all participants would be available for all of those dates. And then throughout the course of the upcoming academic year, the 2018-2019 academic year, we have a monthly webinar. We also do monthly phone call check-ins, and there's a grant application process, which does require some time as well. Other than that, I would say that we are mostly excited about students that are curious and love learning for learning's sake. We're looking for young people that are demonstrating leadership, but doing so just because there's an opportunity to put their passion into action. And that makes for a strong candidate. Griffin, we'd love for you to share a little bit more about your experience with the application process itself.
Absolutely. First, I just want to echo what Nicole said about learning for learning's sake. I think that's something that luckily was instilled in me at a young age. And I think that when you can discover learning at that degree, that it just opens the world up in a completely new way. So absolutely want to echo that. I guess I can just start by talking about where I kind of was in my life when I was applying for the Bezos Scholars Program. So I was a junior in high school in Knoxville at an IB school. So I was in the first year of doing the IB diploma there. And I remember my mom, who worked in counseling at a different school, kind of came home with this flyer that she'd gotten in the mail for the program. It was like, you should really look into this. And I was like, yeah, I'll look into it. And as I started looking more into it, I really discovered that I felt like it was the right program for me to apply to. It really felt like a good fit for my skills, my strengths, and my desires in life. And so I started working on the application, and I remember having to get those reference letters and deciding what educator I would list as the educator that I would apply with for the program and all those kind of things. But really, it just gave me an opportunity to reflect on how I viewed service, how I viewed my community, how I viewed leadership, and all those kind of elements that go into the program. And so probably my biggest kind of service leadership role that I had prior to being a part of the program was a summer camp that was out of my church, where we would host different groups every summer, and then we'd go out in the Knoxville community and do mission work with them, with our homeless neighbors and things like that. And so that was probably kind of my, I guess, keystone service that I'd been doing up until the time that I applied. And so I leaned on that in my application. And that was great because it was something I was very passionate about. And so on down the line, when I was being interviewed by the team and things like that, I got an opportunity to talk about it, which was fantastic. And yeah, I think overall, I think that time in a student's life is pretty pivotal those last couple of years of high school. And I think a program like this and an application process like this gives you that space to think about how the leadership and service that you're doing or want to do in your community factor into who you are as a person and a learner and a thinker and all those kind of things. And so I would say that was more or less where I was when I started the application process. And then as I went through it, I obviously learned more about the program, and the team got to learn a little bit more about me, which was great. And then the rest of the program, I know we'll get into later, but absolutely being available for those webinars is a key, and the team is tremendous, and I found the whole application process to really not be too burdensome either. I think it's fair what is asked of applicants, and I wouldn't be scared of it either. Is something to add. You obviously want to put your best foot forward in any application, but like Nicole said, the team is just looking for students who want to engage with the world creatively and want to find new solutions to problems that they see on the global scale and on the local scale. And I think I think that is an awesome part about the application. So that would be what I would have to say about the application.
Thanks, Griffin. That's well said. To speak a little bit more to what Griffin mentioned in the parts of the application that he talked about, the letters of reference and his educators. So there are two parts to the application. As Griffin said, we want to know about your story, what's important to you, the things that you're excited about, because those are the things that you can speak best to. And we hear that excitement come through when we interview applicants that are really authentic in talking about the things that motivate them and get them excited about making good change in the world. And to that end, we also would like to know how other people have seen that work done. So part of the application, second part is your supporters. So we do ask for 2 letters of recommendation on behalf of each applicant. We also ask that each applicant identify an educator that will apply with that student. And if the student is selected, we'll then join them for the week in Aspen, as well as the year to come in putting together the Local Ideas Festival that we'll speak more about in a bit, as well as a letter of support from the principal of your school. We have seen over the years that some of the more successful festivals that tend to have lasting impact and really speak to sustainable practices do so with the support of schools administration, which includes your principals and your vice principals. We do sometimes have multiple applicants from any given school, and we are fine with the principal submitting 1 letter of support on behalf of all of the students from a given school, although there are students who identify different educators that are applying from the same school, and that is fine too. So in addition to those basic pieces of information about the application, just to share that the Bezos Scholars Program itself chooses 12 students from across the United States, which means we also choose 12 educators to accompany them. So we will identify a total of 24 individuals, 12 students, 12 educators to join us for that week in Aspen. We also have 6 students and an educator from the African Leadership Academy, which is a school in Johannesburg, although their students are from the entire continent of Africa. So in total, there are 30 of us that sit in the room in Aspen. Applications on the US end, if you are curious about the evaluation process, after everything is submitted, the due date being February 9, 2018, for all pieces, including your principal's letter, your educator, and your letters of recommendation. All of those are then reviewed by an external selection committee that looks at those kinds of things we've already spoken about: academic rigor, curiosity, learning for learning's sake, and demonstrated leadership. A very important thing to note when you are completing your application is to really ensure that you're completing it professionally, capitalizing, using good punctuation, double checking for errors, having someone else read your essays and short responses. And if you have any questions about any part of the process, feel free to reach out. So a very big part of this program, the Bezos Scholars Program, is this week at the Aspen Ideas Festival. It's a very exciting place. It's full of thinkers, leaders, politicians, artists, scientists, mathematicians, all sorts of folks that come to campus to share some great ideas, have challenging conversation, and look forward to seeing the Bezos Scholars Program on campus. This will be the 14th cohort of the Bezos Scholars Program in 2018, and there is certainly a legacy and a history of Bezos Scholars on campus asking some of the best questions of some of the most interesting folks on campus. So the week in Aspen, as we shared, will be this year, June 23rd through June 29, 2018. The Aspen Ideas Festival is a big part of that experience, but also simultaneously the Bezos Scholars Program runs its own leadership curriculum throughout the course of the week. So this makes for some long days, but a lot of learning and a lot of fun. It's also a very beautiful environment, as you can see in some of these photos of Aspen. The town of Aspen, Colorado is at about 8,000 feet elevation, so we are up in the Rocky Mountains. Makes for some really lovely sunny days, some cool evenings, and some exciting conversations. We have scholar exclusive experiences that happen during the week at the Aspen Ideas Festival. We have breakfasts and lunches with different speakers, presenters of the Aspen Ideas Fest that are only open to scholars. So it's a private conversation with some of these very interesting individuals where it's just question and answer sessions with our scholars who, again, ask some really incredible questions, but also it's a great way to start connecting with some of these folks as you think about moving into the year to come and your local Ideas Festival project. This is an all expenses paid experience. We cover room, board, travel, lodging for the entire experience while we're there. We fly scholars out that day of, Saturday, which is June 23rd. Scholars arrive in the evening that afternoon. Everyone returns the following Friday, June 29th, in the afternoon to late evening back home. In Aspen, what are the kinds of things that you can expect? You can expect to be challenged. You can expect to be pushed out of your comfort zone. You can also expect to be charged with having 20 seconds of insane courage, starting conversations that you may not have otherwise started, and filling your head with some ideas that perhaps were never there before. The entire experience is designed after the spirit of inquiry and dialogue, where having different opinions is strongly encouraged, but it's also strongly encouraged that you would be willing to have your mind changed as well and listen openly to others that may have different ideas. Griffin, would you like to talk a little bit about your experience at the Aspen Ideas Fest?
Absolutely. Just talking about it's going to make me want to go back. But I remember the first day that we were in Aspen, in the first meeting of all of us in the room together, we were told to be vulnerable throughout the week and to not walk away from the end of the week saying, I wish I would have done blank. And I think that is a really great way to live life. But if you're going to pick one week to ever have that motto, I think it's the Aspen Ideas Festival week. Nicole's right. I mean, some of the days are pretty long, but they're the kind of long days that you also don't want to end as dog tired as you can get, because you're just in this environment of enriching dialogue, of thought-provoking conversations, and you when you come back from Aspen, you realize that is not always present around you, and so to have that, to be immersed in that for a week is a tremendous experience. If you love nature like me, the views are awesome all week because you're in Aspen, which is a great little town to walk around and explore, and you're surrounded by the mountains, and you get to have those conversations in that location, which is just a great combination. I think another thing about the Ideas Fest that I really walked away from being affected by, and one thing that really stood out to me, is that here are these 16 and 17-year-olds that are here at this conference. And it would be easy for these speakers and these hosts and everything to brush it off as, a group of kids that are here, but it's not like that at all. Instead, the Bezos Scholars are valued members of the community during the Ideas Festival. People want to have conversations with the scholars. They want to know what they're thinking about and what they're saying. And to be 16 or 17 and to have your ideas about the world valued like that is really unique. And I really appreciated that about Aspen. And I think is probably one of the biggest takeaways I had from it. I think another thing is just the scholar community that is built is really incredible, because you come in on the first day already having a little bit in common, which is that you're all part of this program, but otherwise not really knowing each other too well. And by the time you leave, it is essentially a family, which is awesome. And you will meet tremendous people as a result of going to Aspen, both within the scholars community and outside of it in the ideas community as a whole, in the Aspen ideas community as a whole. To go off of what Nicole said about meeting with notables, that's another thing that is really unique that I took away is getting to sit in a room with a few other people, 30, half of which being, not even graduating high school, and getting to have engaging conversations with people from all different disciplines. I can still remember some of the conversations I had vividly, for different reasons too. One I remember for how profound it was, which was talking to Clifton Kinney about the youth movement in Ferguson, which was supposed to be a little conversation we had over dessert that I think ended up lasting, 2 hours into the night or something, because it was just that necessary to stay and have that conversation. But I remember other ones too for different reasons, like talking to an oceanographer, which is interesting to me because I kind of stay in my little liberal arts bubble and I never really thought about marine biology, but then all of a sudden here I am, having this conversation about the depths of the oceans that we haven't explored. And so you get that range of topics too, which is great for the people who become a part of this program, because those are the kind of thinkers who aren't really satisfied just studying one thing, just talking about one thing. And, the kind of people who want to grab at every different subject and learn what they can about it. And Aspen Ideas Festival Week is that handed to the scholars on a plate if you're willing to put yourself out there and take it, which is incredible. But you will have to be pushed out of your comfort zone, absolutely. I'm someone who is really interested in writing. I love writing, but I wasn't really that keen on sharing it because, it's a very vulnerable thing to do. But I did that a few times at Aspen. I felt empowered there to share my opinion on things. When, like I said earlier, it's easy for someone at that time to brush me off and, say, you're 17, what do you really know about the world? But instead, everyone in Aspen is eager to know what you know about the world. And I think that experience alone is something that really shaped my next couple of years, and still something I think back to fondly. And, I still keep in touch with the scholars in my cohort. I still love to see what everyone is doing now. And it's tremendous to belong to something like that. And so absolutely, I think that Aspen was a terrific experience for me. And like I said, I could go on and on about it and hope that I would talk myself back there. But I think the important things to take away are just that when you're in Aspen, you get to kind of push whatever you left at home out to the fringes and just really be present for a whole week, which is great. That was my experience.
Yeah. Well said. Absolutely. So the next big step after Aspen is to go back to your home community and create a local ideas festival. Local Ideas Festival is a community change project of your choosing. The Local Ideas Festival is designed to be an intersection of what scholars are truly uniquely passionate about in response to a community need. And no one knows your community better than you. So we do give free rein for scholars to identify both their community and how they'd like to respond to the need that they identify. So these are just some photos from our Local Ideas Festivals throughout the past couple of years. But I would share just a small sampling of some of what we have seen. Going from the top left, there's a photo of the Unraveling Gender team. This is in Rochester, New York, and this was a super exciting event where they decided to break down gender barriers and, in the words of our 2016 Bezos Scholar there, Ana Acevedo, to make people feel uncomfortable, push them outside of their comfort zone and have these conversations about gender that this town had yet to see. One of the tangible results that came from this event in New Rochelle was that the gendered graduation robes. That was one of the ways that Anna felt that she could tangibly impact the way that her community thought about gender and doing away with gendered graduation robes. So the year that Anna graduated last year, that was the first year that students at New Rochelle were able to choose whatever color robe they liked that were school colors instead of having be assigned that based on their gender. In the middle, going clockwise, we have Pablo Hockey. He's from Davenport, Ohio. His program was a very exciting movement of millennials impacting city planning. It was called Our City Movement in Davenport, and this took a group of Pablo and his peers who were shaping the actual policies that were being made there in the city, both with parks design, with public transit, and using that youth voice to really have an influence on the way that the city was designing the city for young people. We have Deborah Gonzalez on the right as well. She founded Fly Fest this last year in Miami, Florida. This was an event for the immigrant community, primarily Spanish speaking, to hear from individuals who also had had an experience of changing countries, changing cultures, changing languages, and learning how to take those first steps in being successful in your new home, whether that's having your degree from your foreign country validated here, whether that was access to social services, whether that was more information about the school community where the students were attending. Debbie presented this for a few hundred individuals in Miami last year. Their team is taking it on again this year, and they are challenging themselves to also include the Haitian Creole speaking community. In the middle on the bottom, we have a picture from the STEAM team. 2008 scholar Kiona Elliott, also from Florida, hosted the STEAM Fest, and this was one of the first collaborations of science and the arts happening there. She also chose this week to tackle global issues, as Griffin mentioned, that we also like to see folks go beyond just the immediate community in talking about access to clean water and participating in World Water Week's Clean Water Challenge. The bottom left corner here, that's an image from STXI, the South Texas Ideas Festival. This festival was really modeled after the Aspen Ideas Festival itself, just creating the space for different ideas, dialogue, and conversation, and different opinions. They had local notables from the Rio Grande Valley speak, whether that was the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club, local athletes, including an American Ninja Warrior, and they had folkloric dance as well. It was a day of celebration of the Rio Grande Valley and the talent that is there, and the opportunities that are available to young people. So a Local Ideas Festival, what is a Local Ideas Festival? As I said, it's a community change project. It's a project of your choosing as a scholar. We do ask that applicants in their application identify an issue that they would like to see addressed and how they would do so, just to kind of get the ideas flowing in advance of working on this project. It's definitely a collaborative project. It's done in partnership with the educator that joins you in Aspen. We consider both the student and the educator to be thought partners in that regard, in how you would respond to the issue, and then also the creation and execution of the event itself. Scholars are creating Local Ideas Festivals, of course, with the support beyond just the two individuals. Often scholars create local teams at their schools to support them in this work. Often the principal and even sometimes the superintendent are involved as well on the school team. Community outreach takes place. We ask that scholars identify any local organizations that are working on any aspect of that same project to see if there's an opportunity for collaboration or cross-promotion in the very least, or how the scholars and this community change project can set themselves apart from work that's already being done to differently meet a need, or meet a need that they feel those other organizations are not yet responding to. Of course, it's always helpful to have a little bit of support, both financial and in kind. The Bezos Scholars Program offers $1,000 to a school over the year that they're a scholar, in addition to the 2 years following. So a total of $3,000 are made available to schools for participating scholars. The $1,000 is done via a grant application process. This is both a skill building technique for both students and sometimes educators as well. We do ask that scholars fill out a grant proposal in the way that all grant proposals are. We also give coaching and support on what that looks like, how to answer those kinds of questions, how to work on a budget, how to create a timeline for your team, etc. A lot of those needs are met via our monthly webinars with notables over the course of the coming academic year, as well as our monthly check-in phone calls as just friendly touch points for questions both on the grant application process itself and how to bring together these Local Ideas Festivals. Griffin, do you want to talk a little bit about Serve Knox and your work, about how that came together, the idea itself, and how you saw it through to execution?
Absolutely. I think that designing and putting on my Local Ideas Festival was something that has challenged me more so than I think a lot of things have. because you're not alone when you're putting this on by any stretch of the imagination. You have the BSP team behind you, you have your educator alongside you, and you'll have a core team and most likely a larger team too that you help recruit that's helping to support you. So while you're not alone, you definitely are in charge. And that is something, again, that, you know, at 17 or 18, you are tasked with putting on this festival about something that you want to, a change you want to see in your community. And in the beginning, that can seem really open-ended and daunting. And I think when me and my educator and I were first starting to think about it, we started to dream big. And my advice would be to dream big, absolutely, but also to dream long, in the sense that your local ideas festival doesn't have to be what you imagine it as in all its glory. It doesn't have to be that on day one, and it doesn't even have to be that on day 365. I know that my ideas festival specifically has continued since I graduated and has expanded. And I think that is one way that you're kind of the sower of seeds, in a sense. By putting on the initial festival, you are laying the groundwork for what will hopefully be a long tradition to follow afterwards. And so that doesn't mean that you shouldn't put your all into it and make it as big and as great and as unique and powerful as you can, or whatever adjective you want it to embody. But it also means that you don't have to put it all on your back. And that was a learning experience for me, learning how to delegate responsibility to members of my team, learning how to hurdle certain things that'll pop up when you're trying to find venues, or when you're trying to get someone to cater, or you're looking at the budget and trying to pick what you do and don't want to cut out of it. And, you know, those things aren't always easy, but they definitely help you grow, and definitely helped me grow. So my Ideas Festival, to talk specifically, we finally circled around to the idea of giving students in our county a place to share what initiatives they were working on in the community. And so our idea with that was, instead of picking one issue that we were going to tackle, we were going to make the issue that we were going to tackle that I knew all these students right around me, you know, sitting next to me in class, that had these great ideas, these great initiatives that no one knew about. And for whatever reason, the publicity for them wasn't there. And so we wanted to create a place for that, give students recognition for the hard work that they were doing, and give them a platform to speak on what they were doing, to say, this is what I'm passionate about. This is, you know, my idea for the future of Knoxville, for the future of Knox County. And here's what I'm trying to do about it. And then to get all those people in the same room, and then all of a sudden they start talking to each other. And that's, you know, a way that collaboration can happen. And to bring members of the community in and to say, this is what our students are doing. You know, this is what our students are doing in your neighborhood. Did you even know that? And so that was our idea for it. And I think that it went as well as we could expect for the first year. And as I mentioned, in the next couple of years, my educator has stayed at the high school after I left, and I helped pass the baton on to members of the core team who have kept it going, and it's grown. But, you know, it wasn't, my local Ideas Festival wasn't, you know, a huge venue. It wasn't, you know, a sold out stadium or anything like, you know, of that scale. There were probably 30 to 50 people there the first year. But it afforded a degree of intimacy that, walking away from it, we were really glad for. And so the Local Ideas Festival, there's no one template for this is what makes a Local Ideas Festival great. You know, that's the beauty of it, is that it is handed to you as this open book, and you can write, you know, in it your story, and you can give that to the people in your community. And that, to me, is what I think the heart of the Local Ideas Festival is. And that's why, you know, I don't think you can assign too much definition to it. in that sense. Now, of course, there are certain things that do and don't work well. For us, we decided that we didn't want to rent out a big venue because while that might have been a little more flashy, we thought our money could be better used, in other ways. And so we just had it at our high school, in our auditorium, and, it was great for what we wanted. And so there's no perfect formula for success. I think that in going through the process, I just tried to keep in mind what was driving us to put this on, which was giving students a voice. And I think that as long as we did that, then it was a success in my book and in the book of my educator. And I think we were able to do that, which to be on the other side of the process too, and to look back and after the week in Aspen and after this almost year of preparation and planning and calling and spreading word and all of this, to kind of stand back at the end of it and look at something that you created to do good in your community is really rewarding in its own right. It's something that you can walk away from absolutely proud of, which is what one thing that I definitely got out of my local Ideas Festival. Another cool thing that we had, at least, was we got a notable speaker to Skype in, which was fantastic. And we got to do a little Q&A with him. His name is Drew Dudley, who gave you a fantastic TED Talk called Lollipop Moments, which I would recommend watching if you get a chance. But another one of those instances where we just decided to kind of jump out there and, step out of our comfort zone a little and email him and say, would you be willing to Skype into this, festival in Knoxville, Tennessee? And he said yes. And so I think when you're going through the planning stages of your local Ideas Festival, you just, should ask, because you never know, the worst thing that someone's going to say is no to something like that. And so to kind of sum it up, I guess, and tie all that together, my local Ideas Festival experience was definitely a growing process for me. And there are definitely growing pains that come with that, and not everything went perfectly according to my plan. But I think on the other side of it, I'm thankful for that. I learned a lot because of that. And it doesn't have to go perfectly according to your plan for it to be the perfect experience, or for it to be the right experience. And so there's no one local Ideas Festival, like Nicole mentioned, those are just a few, just a handful. And because the Bezos Scholars have come from across the globe, this is happening across the globe, and you get to be a part of that, which is fantastic. And no matter how big or small your local Ideas Festival is, you're still doing a net good for the community. And that's definitely something to walk away from, changed, grown from, and proud of.
That's well said, Griffin. Thanks very much. I appreciate what you added about the size of festivals. That's a question we get a lot from scholars is, how big does it need to be? How many people are there? And really, we do have festivals that are maybe 20 people in the room, but they're the right 20 people. We also have festivals that have 2,000 people in the room, and everything in between. We have festivals that are hosted at high school auditoriums. We have festivals that are hosted in parking lots. We have festivals that are hosted at prestigious theaters. One was even held at the National Bar Association. We have festivals that touch on all kinds of topics. We tend to have a lot of festivals that focus on STEM and STEAM, especially access for younger folks, and also especially girls. We have quite a few festivals that focus on peer-to-peer mentoring. Sometimes that looks like literacy and writing support from high schoolers to middle schoolers or elementary school students. Sometimes that looks like just having a mental health support and knowing you have an ally in your school and someone to reach out to. We also have festivals that touch on the topic of environmentalism, nutrition, and eating well. We have some great school gardens that have been started that are still happening. We also have seen festivals that talk about more challenging topics, adolescent marijuana usage, the school-to-prison pipeline, just to name a few. So the options and ideas for festivals are as many as there are young people. So excited to see what this year's 2018 applicants will have to think about. All right, so what comes after all of this year? The Bezos Scholars Program does not stop after year one. In fact, perhaps it only grows and gets much better, because that very challenging work that Griffin spoke about in that first year of getting the ball moving, of creating that momentum, is in place. And after that, Bezos Scholars become Bezos Scholars alumni and contribute considerable support, not only to the current cohort, but also to one another. This program now being in its 13th year, we have hundreds of Scholar alumni supporting one another, both in four-year universities, graduated from four-year universities, into graduate studies, into professional careers, and in all fields, and as Griffin said, around the entire globe. So we do try to create some opportunities that are unique for Bezos Scholars. We offer regional gatherings. You can see this in the picture here on the left. This was a recent picture with scholars that are attending university at Stanford and Berkeley, and those that are even now beyond university and living and working in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley. We tend to have regional gatherings in about 5 different places across the states. We have little pockets of scholars across the United States and the globe, and if we all have one thing in common, it is our love for food, great conversation, and challenging questions. We often invite notables to these gatherings as well. The TED program, both the TED Fellows and TED at large, we send Bezos Scholars as interns to TED events at least once a year, sometimes more. So you will always see a Bezos Scholar at a TED event. Not always wearing a shirt labeled so, but certainly welcomed as a part of the TED team. We also offer internships with the Aspen Institute and continue to add new opportunities of scholar-exclusive internships that we offer just through the program. In addition to this, in our work with TED, we also work closely with many TED Fellows who also are working around the globe. They share with us internships and opportunities in laboratories in their offices before they share them out with others, which is also an exciting experience. We are also building in the year and years to come, webinars with notables. Knowing that one of our most memorable experiences for scholars is that week in Aspen and those private breakfasts and lunch conversations that we have with notables. We're continuing that moving forward. Excited to offer webinars exclusive to Bezos Scholars and Bezos Scholars alumni to chat one-on-one with some of these notable thinkers, politicians, artists, scientists, and dreamers. It really is a network of support. We continue to support scholars, both and alumni in their university and beyond. We tend to keep in touch. We write a lot of handwritten thank you notes. We get a lot of photos. We always love when people drop by the office, and we tend to check up on people when we find ourselves in their neighborhood as well. Griffin, do you want to talk a little bit at all about some of the alumni opportunities that you've had?
Yes. So I got the opportunity to intern with TED through the Bezos Scholars Program as a Bezos Scholar in the spring, which was a fantastic opportunity. Vancouver was beautiful. It was a little reminiscent of Aspen with the mountains there and the kind of, talks that were going on and things like that, and getting to interact with the fellows, which were all tremendous people. And I got to catch up with one of the scholars from my cohort that was also interning at the time. And so, we were so glad to see each other, but also there were a couple scholars there, a few classes before us. And I got off the plane in Vancouver. I got into the car to go to the conference with these 2 people I didn't know. And immediately we just all started talking about having the Bezos Scholars Program in common. Like, what was your life about? What was your life about? What was your experience in Aspen like? And so off the bat, you have something to talk about, but also, everyone in the program is great. And so we got to just get close throughout the week and got to get to know each other, which was awesome, because otherwise I wouldn't have really had that experience unless something like TED Fellows had put us all together. And so I think that being an alumni is not, it's not passive if you don't want it to be. If you want to be an active alumni, you absolutely can be. There's a Facebook group that people throw stuff in all the time about opportunities, or even just, hey, is anyone in X place? I'd love to meet up. Are there any Bezos Scholars in London? Are there any Bezos Scholars in Houston or wherever? Let's grab coffee or something. And being a Bezos Scholar is something that when you meet another person that's a Bezos Scholar, you just have this connection of, we have this shared experience. We're part of this same community. And I know that you're someone who I'm going to get to have an awesome conversation with if we go out to coffee. If we get together in a group for dinner, we know we're going to have a good time. And I don't know about this, but I think I'm probably the only one in Athens right now. So I haven't had the opportunity to meet up with quite as many people. Maybe there are a couple in Atlanta I can find, but I think on the whole, it's something that doesn't end when first of all, doesn't end when Aspen ends. It second of all, doesn't end when your local ideas festival is over. And it can continue as long as you want it to, or sometimes if you don't want it to, you're still going to be a Bezos Scholar. And why you wouldn't want to wear that loud and proud, I have no idea. But that support is going to be there, and that network is going to be there for when you want it and for when you need it sometimes. And the other thing is, it could be easy to just kind of get lumped in with you were in X cohort and that's the end of that. But that's not how it is either. I'm Griffin, and I'm Griffin to all the people from the team that I talk to, and they know me. We email back and forth. They want to know what I've been reading, what I've been up to, how I'm feeling about life, and all those important things that people that care about you want to know about you. And that level of care is something that you still receive as an alumni, absolutely. And it doesn't go away.
Thanks, Griffin. I would only add to that, because I think that was very well said, that absolutely we always love to know what you're reading. But I think beyond that, we are excited to know that the scholars themselves turn to one another. And given that we have alumni that are out of university, that are in university, we're beginning to see many organic mentorships form of both being mentees and mentors to one another. And I think that's an exciting opportunity that the Bezos Scholars Program offers, given how diverse our alumni base is and continues to grow to be. We have so many different individuals in different fields of study that are always excited to talk about what they do and how they can. And it's all, and the more students that we add, the new cohorts that come, the richer the experience becomes. So in conclusion today, just wanted to share a few final thoughts about the Bezos Scholars Program before we move into a general Q&A. So as I said, this is the 2018 cohort, will be the 14th year of the Bezos Scholars Program. The program, founded in 2005 by Mike and Jackie Bezos and the Bezos Family Foundation, began at the Aspen Institute and has evolved from students just being participants at the Aspen Ideas Festival to being proactive members of their communities, as Griffin said, and taking that experience home, sharing that with their peers, and paying it forward to their community. The program itself is excited to meet this new cohort of 2018 applicants. We're excited to hear about your ideas about how you can impact your community. And if you have any other interests, questions, you can feel free to reach out here. The email address is on the screen. Please visit our website, bezosscholars.org. It has lots of exciting pictures, more info about the Aspen Ideas Festival, the application process, our scholars themselves, and definitely be sure to check out our blog. This is a place that you can hear from scholars in their own voice about experiences that they've had both in the program and beyond, as well as some of the program staff's thoughts, some of our notable speakers that we get to connect with contribute blogs. The blog is really a place for current and up-to-date information. The website also is the place to access the application. The application is an online application. All of the info about the application can be found on our website, bezosscholars.org. All right, thank you everyone for tuning in. If you have any questions, there is a chat box you can access either on the bottom left of your screen if you're on the phone, probably the bottom right if you're on your computer. Griffin and I will give this a few minutes to sit here so we can be sure to read any questions you have and respond accordingly. Griffin, I think this question is
I was
probably
gonna
for
say,
you.
I
Yeah.
think this is directed to me. So how do I pick an educator? I think part of it for me was just deciding who I really saw walking alongside me, both in Aspen and developing a local ideas festival. And that doesn't mean that it has to be the educator that you got along with best or that you get along with best or the one that's most like you. But I think that you should look for an educator who is going to think in that kind of BSP, Aspen Ideas Festival vein. Someone who wants to kind of wrestle with those big questions. And so for me, I picked my theory of knowledge teacher, which felt like a pretty good fit. And we got along good as people anyways. And so it really just felt like the right choice. But I also thought on, administration at my school, my counselor. I just kind of try to think around, and I didn't make a decision right away. I just kind of slept on it for a little bit, and I just felt like it was the right decision to pick that particular educator. You could also just, if you're unsure, just maybe bring it up and see what their opinion is on it or something like that. But my experience was just kind of thinking about who I saw walking alongside me, who I saw in that same vein of thought, and who I wanted to be working with me and challenging me.
Awesome. Griffin, I think this other question is likely also for you. The most interesting speaker you heard or met in Aspen?
I'm trying to think. That's a tough one. There are a lot of great ones. I think for me as a writer, I really enjoyed talking with and meeting David Brooks, who's a columnist for the New York Times. Another writer that I met who's another columnist for the New York Times when I was in Aspen is Charles Blow. And that was probably one of the most powerful talks that I went and saw in Aspen, which was about his memoir about growing up Black in Louisiana. And I bought his memoir in the local Aspen bookstore and read it, and that was fantastic. And it was just a much different experience reading that book, having listened to him speak about it, having gone up to him afterwards and asked him about it and introduced myself and met him. So I would say that those two stick out to me as writers. But I think that there are just interesting people out the wazoo in Aspen. I really liked almost all the conversations and talks I attended. And, everyone is going to get a different thing out of each one. But I would mention those two specifically as ones that immediately jump out to me.
While you were talking, I was thinking a little bit, Griffin, myself, about some of the interesting folks that I've met over the years in attending. And you mentioned meeting Clifton Kinney at the outset of this webinar, and truly that stands out to me as one of the most unique experiences that I've had with the program in Aspen. As Griffin said, we had invited Clifton to speak briefly over dessert one evening, and it did turn into a 2+ hour conversation because the conversation was absolutely needed to be had. Clifton Kinney was a good friend of Michael Brown, who was killed in Ferguson, and Clifton started a youth movement in Ferguson and the surrounding area, activating some of Michael's friends, peers, fellow students to do community service projects and remind the community that young people definitely have good things to contribute to the community and to rally themselves in the path and modeled by Martin Luther King's nonviolent movement. In reaction to that, Clifton spoke about both his experience of losing his friend and also the challenges of creating a youth-led movement in a community that was resistant to youth-leading movements, but also about how he was taking next steps and seeking mentors, and that was a really powerful experience. I would also add, just as a personal curiosity, and because Griffin also mentioned that he really enjoyed hearing from people that were outside of his liberal arts focus, that I too was a language major, and I studied mostly liberal arts things at college. But one of the tracks at the Aspen Ideas Festival 2 years ago was astrophysicism, and I knew that we were having some excellent, bright minds of astrophysics and physics in our scholar group that we were bringing. So we had the opportunity to meet with one of the scientists, Nergis Malvavala, who was working at the LIGO lab at MIT that helped prove the existence of black holes, which proved to be a very interesting conversation, both in her making those kinds of deep physics very understandable and accessible to the rest of us in the room that are not mathematicians, but also very exciting, as one of the questions that our scholars posed to her was, how do you get up and go to work every day not knowing if the thing that you've worked your whole life for actually exists or not? And Nergis's response to that, and the encouragement of, how your passion fuels you to do work, was very exciting. Griffin, there's another question here. I think this one is probably definitely for you. Was it hard balancing being a Bezos Scholar at the same time that you were a senior?
I don't know that it was any harder than balancing senior year on the whole. I think that for high achieving students, senior year is going to be stressful. I mean, you're flooded with college applications, college essays, you are probably in leadership roles on campus, your classes are hard or whatever else. And so all that is things on your plate. And being a Bezos Scholar is, yes, another thing it's another responsibility that you're taking on. But at the same time, it's one that I wanted to take on. And so I don't think that the stress or weight of being a Bezos Scholar, whatever that added to my stress level or to my kind of like time management difficulties senior year, I think that is absolutely overshadowed by what I gained from it. And I don't know that that is always going to be true with the things that you have to put your time into as a senior. But, I think that was definitely true with the Bezos Scholars Program for me. And the other thing is you are given this new network of support for your senior year. And you have, people helping you with those college applications. And you have this cohort of friends that you've just made that are also going through it. And so I think that for the students who will become people who the Bezos Scholars Program wants, those students, your senior year is going to be a challenging time with or without it. And I think that it was absolutely helped by being a Bezos Scholar. And then, okay, my favorite part about being a scholar and the most challenging part. My favorite part, I would say, is the community, the feeling of having another family, having this kind of support under your feet, especially in Aspen during your senior year, and then afterwards as an alumni too. I think the challenging part for me was really the months when I didn't know that my local ideas festival was going to be what I wanted it to be, and having to wrestle with that and having to come to terms with the places that I messed up in planning that festival and the places that things didn't go exactly as I wanted, and learning that is a part of event planning. That is a part of trying to do something like a local ideas festival, and being okay with that kind of growth and personal challenge and personal doubt and everything like that. That was challenging, absolutely. But I was on the other side of it. I was glad for it. But that was my particular local ideas festival experience. I don't know that that's the most challenging part for everybody. I think another challenging thing is just putting yourself out there that first time in Aspen. Because after that is kind of a downhill slope of you realize that everyone there, wants to hear what you have to say, and everyone there is gonna support you. But I think also that kind of that first step I took out of my comfort zone was also a challenge.
Thanks, Griffin. Appreciate everyone tuning in today. All these great questions. Griffin, we appreciate you tuning in today, sharing your thoughts on the program as well. Very well said. If there are any other questions, please send them to scholars@joinbspa.org. I will answer them myself. We look forward to seeing your applications come through and wish everyone all the luck. Thanks very much. Have a great evening.